Welcome to the deep dive. You flagged some really interesting stuff coming with the latest Windows 365 update that Service Release 2503. So we're going to pull it apart, get right to what actually matters for you. Think of this as your express route to understanding the key shifts.
Exactly. We've looked at the briefing docs and a more detailed analysis. They're all pointing towards an April 2nd, 2025 rollout, but the analysis, well, that's based on info from the week of March 31st.
Yeah, and our goal here is pretty straightforward. Give you a clear, thorough understanding of the big advancements, what they mean in practice, and what should be on your radar without getting totally lost in the technical weeds.
Right.
We'll focus on four main areas: device management and security, how that's impacted, then what's new in provisioning, the crucial stuff for frontline worker capabilities, and finally, changes to the end-user experience.
And honestly, there are some fundamental shifts happening in each.
Oh, definitely. There's this new security option that basically moves from trusting access over time to, well, verifying it with every critical action.
Yeah, quite a change.
But let's not jump ahead. Let's start with the device management and security.
All right, let's dive in. So the first thing that's really significant is that the every time sign-in frequency for conditional access policies, that's now generally available, GA.
Okay, every time. Now, we're probably familiar with the existing periodic reauthentication. That's the system just asking you to prove you are who you say you are after a set time, right?
Right, exactly. The occasional password prompt, just to make sure you're still you.
Uh-huh.
So this every time option, it takes a much more immediate approach. The analysis puts it like this. It requires reauthentication each time users access critical resources or perform sensitive actions.
Ah, okay.
So it's not just about a timed checkpoint anymore. It's triggered by what the user is actually trying to do. It's like a paradigm shift in access control, moving beyond just time intervals.
Right, to immediate verification at these critical points.
Yeah.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because this gives organizations much more precise control, doesn't it?
Definitely.
If someone's trying something high risk, they have to re-verify right then and there.
Yeah.
But what about user fatigue? Constantly re-authenticating. How do you balance that tighter security with productivity?
That's a crucial question. Organizations will need to be really careful about defining what counts as a critical resource or a sensitive action. If you apply this too broadly, yeah, you could definitely frustrate users. The key is in that word granular. It allows for very specific targeting. So it shouldn't be applied everywhere.
Right.
Think of it like a higher level of security that only kicks in when it's genuinely needed, not like a constant barrier.
That makes sense. So a significant tightening where it counts most.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, another update in this area. It concerns how Windows handles visual effects.
Yes, the default setting for visual effects performance has changed. It now defaults to let Windows choose what's best for my computer instead of a previous fixed setting.
Okay, so let Windows choose. What's the thinking there? For the average user, what does this change mean?
Well, the goal is really to provide a better, more balanced experience right out of the box. The analysis notes this new default attempts to strike a middle ground between appearance and performance.
Okay.
So the system tries to intelligently figure out how to make things look good without slowing everything down too much. You can just imagine IT support teams breathing a sigh of relief, right? Fewer tickets about sluggish performance, hopefully.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But users can still tweak these settings if they want. Yeah. They're not locked into whatever Windows decide.
Oh, absolutely. The documentation's clear on that. Users can still pick best appearance if visuals are top priority, or best performance if speed is everything, or even use a custom setting to fine-tune specific visual bits.
So it's really about setting a more optimized baseline for everyone, which I guess should be particularly helpful in places with lots of different hardware capabilities.
Exactly. For IT departments managing, tons of cloud PCs with varying specs, this default setting aims to deliver a smoother initial user experience, reduces the need for fiddling with settings everywhere.
All right, let's move on to provisioning.
Yeah.
This is all about how those new cloud PCs get set up and ready for users, right?
That's right.
And there's a pretty notable change regarding custom images here.
There is. A key update is the prohibition. You can't upload custom images that have managed data disks attached anymore.
Okay, let's unpack that. Manage data disks attached.
Yeah.
Why stop that? What's the reasoning?
The analysis suggests it's to further standardize the image creation process. Basically, by stopping people from including pre-attached data disks, Microsoft is likely aiming to cut down on potential inconsistencies, maybe errors during provisioning,
Ah,
and ultimately just ensure a more reliable, uniform deployment experience. Think of it like simplifying the recipe to avoid unexpected results.
makes sense. Creates a more predictable, less error-prone setup. The briefing document also reminded us about the existing rules for custom images. Can you quickly recap those, just the main ones?
Sure. So custom images still need to be running supported versions of Windows 10 or 11 Enterprise. They must be Gen 2 images, VMs with modern firmware.
Got it.
They need to be single session VM images, so designed for one user at a time, not multi-user in the base image. No recovery partition allowed in the image. And there's a default OS disk size of 64 gigs.
Okay. So this new rule about data disks is just another step towards that bigger goal. More uniformity, fewer variables that could mess things up during deployment.
Pretty much.
Now, while standardization makes sense for Microsoft,
Mhm.
could this create any limitations
Hmm.
or maybe add complexity for organizations with really specific custom image needs? Did they rely on those data disks?
That's a valid point, yeah. Organizations that did rely on pre-attaching data disks for specific software or data setups, well, they'll need to find different ways now.
Like what?
Maybe using provisioning tools like Intune to push out software and configs after the cloud PC is provisioned, or perhaps leaning more on storage solutions like OneDrive or network shares for the data itself.
Hmm.
So while it promotes standardization, yeah, it might require some adjustments to existing workflows for certain places.
Okay. Now let's turn our attention to frontline workers. This feels like a really significant focus area in this update, doesn't it? Especially with shared mode going GA.
Oh, absolutely. The move of Windows 365 frontline cloud PCs in shared mode from preview to general availability,
Right. Yeah.
that's a major step forward. The briefing doc says it significantly expands the deployment options for frontline workers.
And that really unlocks potentially big cost savings, right, for companies with shift workers, turning individual device costs into shared resource investments.
Exactly right. Huge potential there.
So for anyone maybe newer to this, what exactly is shared mode? How does it work day to day? Before, even if multiple workers use the same physical device, the cloud PC was often dedicated or used one after the other. How's shared mode different?
Right. So shared mode provides a non-personalized desktop environment. Multiple users can access it concurrently at the same time.
Okay.
Think of like a shared workstation in a hospital, maybe a point of sale system in retail, or even a library computer. It's designed for tasks where individual personalization isn't the main thing.
Gotcha.
When one user logs out, the environment essentially gets reset for the next person. This simplifies IT management a lot because you're not managing tons of individual user profiles in the traditional way on these shared instances.
So really optimize for efficiency and cost, especially where lots of employees might need the same cloud PC at different times or maybe even concurrently for different tasks.
Exactly. And it's important to distinguish this from what we now call dedicated mode. That allows up to 3 employees to access the same cloud PC, but only one at a time, sequentially. Shared mode is the key thing here. True concurrent access.
That's a really important clarification. Thanks. And building on these frontline capabilities, there's also an integration with Autopilot device preparation. That sounds like it could be a real game changer for streamlining deployments.
It really is. Organizations can now link Autopilot device preparation with these shared mode frontline cloud PCs. And the main benefit, making sure essential apps and configurations are already in place before any user even logs in for the first time.
Ah, so instead of each frontline worker waiting for software or settings to load when they first log in, it's all pre-configured, ready to go.
That's the core idea, yeah. The analysis outlines 4 key steps. First, create an Entra ID device group for the shared cloud PCs. Second, create and assign Intune apps and scripts that's defining the software and settings. Third, create a device preparation profile in Intune. And finally, create a cloud PC provisioning policy that ties it all together. These are basically the tools IT uses to automate the install and config on the cloud PCs.
Wow, that sounds like it could dramatically simplify rolling out and managing these shared devices, especially for big organizations with lots of frontline staff.
Definitely.
And it also seems like it further reduces the need for those heavily customized images we were just talking about.
Precisely. By using Autopilot for this pre-configuration step, you can keep a more standard base image ensures consistency, give a better initial experience for the frontline folks, all without the headaches of super complex custom images.
All right, let's shift focus now to the end user experience, because ultimately all these backend changes need to mean something better or more flexible for the people actually using the cloud PCs.
True.
One notable update here involves enhanced options for getting back to the local desktop when using Windows 365 boot mode.
Yes, that's right. For users running in Windows 365 boot mode, and remember, this is currently just for Windows 11 devices, there are now more convenient ways to switch back to their physical local device desktop.
Okay, what are these new ways back to the local machine?
The key additions are access through the familiar CTRL ALT screen,
Huh.
and also from Cloud PC error screens.
Oh, interesting.
4, the ways to switch back might have been less obvious, maybe less accessible sometimes. Now, if a user needs to quickly grab a local file or run a local app while they're in their Cloud PC via boot mode, well, these extra entry points offer a more intuitive way to temporarily jump back.
That sounds like a pretty significant usability improvement. Imagine being in a virtual meeting on your cloud PC and needing to quickly check a doc saved locally. These extra options would make that much smoother.
Exactly. It's all about enhancing flexibility in those hybrid scenarios, where users are mainly in their cloud environment but still occasionally need to interact with local stuff.
Yeah.
And it's worth noting, admins still have control over this experience through the boot configuration options, so they can tailor it to fit their organization's needs.
Good point. Okay, now, the final major area we should cover. It involves the integration of the Windows app, specifically with MAM Mobile Application Management, but on personal devices. This feels really important for companies supporting BYOD, bring your own device.
Absolutely. This latest release enables protected MAM access to the Windows app using Microsoft Edge, specifically on personal Windows devices. This is a huge enabler for orgs embracing flexible work and BYOD programs.
Okay, so practically speaking, what does this let employees actually do?
It lets users securely access corporate resources through the Windows app on their personal unmanaged Windows devices without the company needing full management control over their entire personal device.
Right.
The company can protect its sensitive data within the app itself without managing the user's whole personal laptop or tablet. It strikes that crucial balance, security for the company, privacy for the employee.
That sounds like a real win-win for
Yeah.
both sides. How does that data protection within the app actually work? What's the tech behind it?
Well, it's powered by a combination of technologies working together. There's app protection conditional access, which checks that certain policy rules are met before allowing access.
Okay.
It also uses Microsoft Intune for managing the application itself, and Microsoft Entra conditional access for enforcing broader security policies, who can access what under which conditions.
Right.
Together, these make sure that even on a personal device, any corporate data accessed via the Windows app is protected according to the company's security rules.
This really does feel like a key step for modern work, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Letting people use their own preferred devices while still keeping company info secure. Tackles a core challenge in today's, hybrid world.
Precisely. It's all about providing that essential balance between strong security and the flexibility that users, well, often demand and expect these days.
Well, this has been an incredibly insightful deep dive into Windows 365 Service Release 2503. Seriously, we've covered a lot of ground, from those tougher security controls with the every time sign-in to streamlining provisioning by restricting those data disks, the really important progress for frontline workers with shared mode and autopilot, and finally, those end-user experience boosts, like better return to local options and MAM on personal devices.
And it's worth emphasizing, again, the general availability of several of these features, things that were in preview before that signifies the platform maturing,
Yeah.
becoming more stable.
Yeah, definitely.
These are now fully supported, ready for wider adoption.
So, as you, our listener, take all this in,
Mhm.
maybe think about which of these updates might have the biggest impact, or raise the most pressing questions for your specific situation. Could that more granular every time sign-in policy be the key to locking down your most sensitive data? Or maybe the introduction of shared mode for frontline workers could unlock new efficiencies in how you operate. Perhaps you'll want to dig deeper into the details of those conditional access policies, or the specific deployment stuff around shared versus dedicated frontline setups.
There's definitely a lot to consider there.
There's a wealth of information here, absolutely. And hopefully, this deep dive has given you a valuable framework for exploring it further.